A great example of that, which is coming up, is the Trump tax cuts, which are set to sunset after 2025. And so, and I would say too that the debt and deficit is a very large. I mean, it's huge. Let me put it that way, right? Even before we getting into how to deal with it and different policies, but the idea of those tax cuts. Okay, are they going to get sort of renewed? Are they going to expire? What's going to happen? Regardless of who ends up being the president, well, there's going to need to be congressional approval of the reenactment, or if they just let it sunset. Action or inaction by Congress is who is the most important when it comes to whether or not those Trump tax cuts get renewed. Right. Yeah. Main point is not to again argue positive or negative, but just more the idea that who runs Congress is almost just as important, or as important, if not more important, than who's running presidents. And then, and you actually have a great graph in front of you too. I mean, walk us through a little bit about how it doesn't matter, right? So if you go back in time, whether it's GDP or any of the numbers that you want to share, Dave, talk us how that regardless of who is in power, what happens to the American economy?
Yeah, so I've just got a chart here. The first one I'll kind of talk about is basically 2009 through July of 2024. If you remember, at the beginning of 2009, Barack Obama was just coming into the presidency. We heard a lot of the same rhetoric from the right that we're hearing today about Kamala. Is Trump's a socialist. He's going to take down the stock market. He's going to wreck the economy. Well, turns out none of that happened. We heard the same thing about Trump when he came into office, that there was going to be turmoil, calamity.
Too much of a wild man.
Too much of a wild card. Everything was fine. Mm-hmm. We heard it about Biden again. But during that time, from 2009 to the end of July, the market returned an average of 15%. Now, that was coming off of 2008, which was obviously the financial crisis. That was a rough period. But still, I mean, 15% annualized return is crazy, is really good. Obviously, we can't say that the past is going to be the future, but at the same time, really impressive returns. And during that time, we heard countless times from the media about how either side was going to wreck the economy, and it just didn't materialize. And you can see this. You could say the same thing about real GDP growth. And that's GDP growth adjusted for inflation. Mm-hmm. You see our gross domestic product kept marching through. Obviously, there were downturns during COVID, but it bounced right back up. So in reality, we just keep chugging along as an economy, as a people.